Welcome to Relevance. The world's greatest podcast. Hosted by author Mike R. Aikins. Where they dare to talk about topics that really matter.
Okay.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, today our special guest is going to be Mr. Chris Henry. Chris, the first time I just spoke, I wasn't recording. So at this particular time, I am recording live. So take your time. And whenever you come in, I'll be ready for you. I just wanted to segue for Mr. Chris Henry, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Relevance podcast. And as I mentioned, our special guest today is Mr. Chris Henry, and Chris is a well-known advocate in the child support struggle. I met Chris a few months ago, probably about a year ago, wasn't it?
Almost a year, yeah.
Almost a year ago. Okay, man, time sure flies when you're in the struggle. You know what I mean? But welcome, Chris. You're a busy guy, man. I've been trying to track you down for about a year now.
Well, you know, like all of us, COVID-19 hit and I had to make some transitions. You know, a lot of, moving stuff home, run the business, but also be concerned about family members who've actually caught the virus.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about up there in New York, man. I hear it's just crazy up there.
Well, New York is still in a shutdown mode. For example, today they announced that the schools will be delayed again. They were supposed to open on the 21st of September, but now they've moved it further out. I think another 3 weeks and something, I think it's going to move out even further. Wow. I think just going to remote learning is probably the best thing at this point.
Oh, absolutely, man.
The year is almost over. If you wait till October to open the schools, it's over.
What is it going to do? Yeah. I mean, and I don't know. I mean, do your kids go to a private school or something? Because
no, they go to a public school.
But it's a pretty good school.
Yeah, it's a very good school.
Okay. Yes. Because I mean, there's a big disparity between public schools, magnet schools, and charter schools where I live, as opposed to just a public school. I used to teach in the public school system for a little while, and the teachers have no support, and the kids are just a number for the schools to get the funding to come in. So they're just basically warm bodies. They don't care about teaching them anything or anything. Right. So, but anyway, but let's get back to the subject of the whole child support struggle. Believe it or not, you helped me immensely a few months ago, draft a letter, and I sent that letter in, and my employer basically referred me to the payroll company, which is ADP. You've probably heard of those guys. They're nationwide. But they're this huge payroll company. And so the payroll company basically turned it off after I sent the stop letter, the cease and desist.
Cease and desist letter, yeah.
Yes, I sent that. And I even had a copy of a letter from the Texas Attorney General that said, no current child support is in effect. No current child support order is in effect from Kim Paxson. So I sent that in. They stopped it. Then they turned it back on right before the pandemic, the lockdown. So they intercepted my stimulus check. So trust me, bro, I am not a happy camper. I didn't even get a stimulus check. Don't laugh. It's not funny, man. I tell you, I was ready to punch somebody, man. It was really sad. It really was.
Yeah. You know, the pandemic letter is an interesting thing, one, because I've been helping people to get back their stimulus check. It wasn't supposed to happen. They turned on the system right before the pandemic to basically activate everyone. And I'm not sure why they did that. And then they took the check. It's interestingly enough, they didn't put out a press release saying, oh, we made a mistake. It should not have been intercepted.
Wow.
And so I've been working with folks to, write the rebuttal to get those checks back. But it wasn't supposed to happen. But, they're a private agent.
Yeah, I just kind of wrote it off. And, it really worried me for a minute, and it really disturbed me. I was really sad there for a second, but I said, man, I got to get back up on my horse and keep riding, because these people don't care anything about me, man. They don't care anything about fathers that's out here. I mean, the pandemic, we didn't have any kind of control over that. But you want to come in and take our money when companies are shutting us down, laying us off, locking us down.
Well, it wasn't supposed to, like I said, it wasn't supposed to happen. They put out a press release from the Senate office saying it was a mistake, but they didn't say how they were going to correct it. So the question now is, in the second stimulus, will the same thing happen? Like everyone else, keep your fingers crossed.
In Texas, I guarantee you I get nothing. Because now, are you talking about guys that are in arrears, or are you talking about just guys that were paying child support in general? Just guys that were current?
Yeah, the stimulus didn't matter.
It shouldn't have.
It was just a gift from the IRS. That's all it was. It was just a simple one-time gift. The question becomes, the second stimulus, how would you classify that? And so far, no one knows.
I'm not even going to count on it.
Yeah, I would say, look, just don't count on it. If it happens, great. If not, we'll find a way to get around this. As you know, I run a YouTube channel called Child Support Made Simple. And I did a video right before the pandemic called What Should You Do at the Beginning of the Pandemic? And I'm not sure anyone followed my lead, but if they really have, they would be in a good position. Because one of the things I said was, file a modification. It doesn't matter what it's for. Get the paperwork in the books, because if we go into a lockdown, your modification starts where? At the point of filing. And I even suggested recommend a phone, at the time, Zoom wasn't big, a phone request. And those who took advantage of it, well, you dial it back to the point of filing as opposed to waiting, because what happened was the court shut down for 2 months. Right. So if you'd lost your job within that window, you'd have to wait till the courts open in order to file. So, I was trying to preempt all of this, and, folks who listened, some were saying, well, why do I need to file a modification? I said, because you don't know in this pandemic what's going to happen to you. You may lose your job. You may go on furlough. Well, now you know.
Well, let me ask you this now. I guess kind of moving forward a little bit. I know you've been really thoroughly immersed in the struggle here, helping people and this whole child support thing. How is your situation coming along personally? Because I know a lot of times we get so wrapped up.
My situation,
helping other people.
Easy. My situation is it's nothing to do with child support anymore. That's behind me.
Okay.
What's in front of me is my lawsuit against the state of New York.
That's what I meant. It's really big.
That's where I'm in, and I'm in that. As you know, when you try to sue the state, that takes years. People know this. Yeah. Even when it's obvious, like a police shooting takes years before it's settled, right?
Yeah.
So, but yes, I'm suing a Judge Tandra Dawson in Supreme Court. I'm suing a support magistrate, sue the police officer, just about everyone who touched my case. I basically put in the lawsuit because I didn't want to file 3 or 4 different lawsuits. I just wanted to write 2 lawsuits and just covered that. I'm in district court, but again, you can file it in state or district court. It doesn't matter. I decided to do district court because district court in New York is right next to Supreme Court. And I was afraid that the judge's cronies and friends would have blocked me. So I decided to just go across the street. It's the only reason why I did it there, but it could be done in state or federal court. Makes no difference. Yeah. That's it. But what I've been doing in the meantime is I've been putting out, videos pointing out the errors, the fallacies, and the faults in the system. Because it is, I hate to say this, but the whole system is fraud. And I don't mean fraud where you just shout fraud. If you watch my videos, I show you in every legislation that they've written, in everything that they do, just fraud. For example, I just did a recent one where I showed that child support signed a contract with the largest credit agency to allow you to get access to your credit report without notification. That's not accidental for you to do that. I'm talking there's 15 million men on child support, according to the Congressional Budget Office. And now you have child support. Title 4D has direct access to your credit report, direct access, and they don't have to notify you. How did they get around it? Well, the lawmakers passed a bill in Congress, HR 2079, that says, oh, they don't have to do it. Now, imagine this. Your credit card company, your bank, your car note, they need to notify you before getting into your credit report. For Title 4D, for some reason, they just get a carte blanche. Now, if your credit goes south, you have no idea who did it. But one thing for sure, you know, they're inside of it, looking all day long, you know. So when you come to court, yeah. So
the whole system is tied to the fiat currency system. So, you know, that system is in a world of trouble right now, with the Federal Reserve just printing out trillions of dollars of money and it going, God knows where it's going. The rich people are getting it. The big corporations are getting it, but they're filtering down measly $1,200 checks to us common folk. But for people,
I think when we're finished printing money, I think there's probably going to be about $7 trillion worth of debt floating in our economy. That's the largest we've ever had in the history of this country.
And that goes to show you that something the fall of the inevitable fall of the dollar. I mean, they've been talking cryptocurrency and maybe some type of Federal Reserve currency for quite some time now. The banks are in trouble. Banks like JP Morgan and stuff like that, I guess they did a whole bunch of repos or something. They're in trouble with a whole bunch of bad loans. You wonder how a bank could be in trouble when they can just create money out of thin air and keep the fiat currency, charade going. But
the Federal Reserve just announced that they're thinking of keeping the 0% rate all the way into 2022. So we could be here for a while. But even while all of that is going across, there's no adjustment to the Title 4D program.
That's what I mean, man. It's almost like we're not real people. They don't even consider us they already consider the human race as chattel, okay? They already consider people not being informed enough to really know what's going on in this world in terms of the fiat currency, the banking system, the bond that is placed on our social security number and our birth certificate at birth, that they're basically trading on the World Stock Exchange. They're trading our labor and they're making money. You have a fictitious straw man name in Washington, D.C. in all caps that basically make money off of. It's
well, here's a question. What are some of the questions that people have in child support that, like, what are some of their
I talked to a guy yesterday, a day before yesterday. He chimed in from the website and he's got a problem. He's working for a company and he says he's on disability. He's fighting like a disability suit with his company. He can't work and this and that. And they're still taking out the same amount of child support from his.
Right. Yeah, there's a portion of the disability that's eligible for deductions, and there's another side of it. But the point is this, it almost seems like there should be a moratorium on this stuff, but there isn't. But the one that I think is really egregious is the veterans. Veterans are usually exempt from many garnishment rules, and evictions. But for some reason, Title 4D was able to get a portion of that to be subject to income withholding. Like I said, the Title 4D program is so powerful. They did the same thing with the credit report to be able to get to your credit report without your knowledge. And here the veterans, which are a protected class, and thank them for their services, they found a way to get into their bank accounts too. This industry, how do you stop them when they're so powerful? literally powerful. Now, I had someone on my take to privacy under the Fourth Amendment. Put the straw man stuff aside for a second, just a little bit. You're given your information freely without your permission and without your access. What happened to your Fourth Amendment? Those are all yours. And hey, here, come get it. So yeah, I mean, yeah, the straw man stuff, great. But I'm talking about in your face fraud, just in your face, no hiding. This is what I'm going to do to you.
There was some talk out there when Trump first came in that he was going to do something about it. Have you heard anything about that since when he first came in? That he was going to get rid of
Yes. Well, there's a couple of things. There's a lot of things Trump said in the beginning, which was just merely talk, because look, he doesn't understand politics. Okay, they're checks and balances. Title 4D belongs to Congress. They own that. For him to interfere with it requires a whole different set of rules and everything else. It is hard because it is a congressional program, and as you know, the person who controls that don't like Trump. So for him to interfere with one of their programs, it's hard. I mean, it's nice to say
he basically has no control over anything they're doing.
The Constitution does not allow any of the branches to interfere with the other branch.
But they let the executive branch bring in these judge magistrates to our Title IV hearing. They're not even real judges.
As a contractor, there's a difference. What you're talking about, delegation versus contract. You can delegate positions, which is what each of the branches can do, but contracts is what we're dealing with in Title 4D. For instance, I did a video on, here's a contract that in Harris County, Ohio, they're paid $230 for every legal business that they do as a contractor, not as a delegated judge, but as a contractor services. Because inside Title 4D, there's no reference to you have to have the title. You can put a black robe on. You don't have to be an attorney.
Exactly.
You just have. You don't have to be a judge. You just have to have a contract.
So that opens up the door for us to sue them individually. Then, basically, is what you're saying.
The way I look at it is, if you're operating outside the judicial branch, you're operating under your private capacity, which means immunity doesn't apply because immunity only applies to judicial officers.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, you got to watch each of the states. What they do is this. The states pass local ordinances that gives immunity to some of these folks. They did it in New York. They did it in Texas, Arizona, Pennsylvania. So while there is no blanketed immunity for judicial process, they have given themselves immunity under the legislative branch by saying, well, what you're doing is like a judicial process or quasi-judicial process, and then they give themselves, the only way to test that theory is through a lawsuit. Because technically, if you're not doing a judicial function, you're in your private capacity.
Okay,
which means you can't.
All right, so I took them to the Supreme Court, or the big district court, the one outside of, it was downtown Dallas, but it's supposed to be I thought I was going to the Supreme Court. That's what I thought I was doing. I went and filed it. I filed my, what is it, the JD 22 or something like that?
Yes.
I filed that, and I went and took it to the district, and I thought they were the Supreme Court in this area. And they basically judged against me, Rooker-Feldman. They said Rooker-Feldman doctrine. They weren't going to come back and overturn any injury that the state had already done to me. So basically just threw my case out.
Right. And I'm going to make a point of that. I did a video recently that showed that the third district has overturned Rooker-Feldman. It's being abused by the district courts. It's being totally abused, and they explained it, and I did a video on my channel about that. So as far as anyone's concerned, Rooker-Feldman is dead. It cannot be used anymore because it's been used incorrectly in order of a Title 4D program. What they're saying is basically, beyond the fact that this district court cannot interfere in local court, the other side of it, they're saying, well, we don't get involved in domestic matters because that's reserved to the states. Well, Title 4D is not domestic matter. It's a contract problem. This is a contract problem. You have to argue that this has nothing to do with mom, is a contract issue. I mean, the Supreme Court says it, that Title 4D has nothing to do with the mother and the child. That's Blessing versus Freestone. So right there in your paperwork should be, this is not a domestic issue. The Supreme Court's already decided it. So now let's move to the contract, which is, I don't have a contract with Title 4D. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is just, there's so many levels. The average person, I mean, there's just no way they can tackle this on their own. I mean, they'll have to do so much study. How long have you been at this, Chris? How long have you been actually studying?
I've been at this about 4 years of intense study and research.
Yeah.
To try to understand how this monster, and I call it a monster, was created, because it's out of control.
It's totally out of control.
Yeah, it's
and
out
you
of
know
control.
What's funny is these employers are in on it with their state. I mean, they won't even help their employee as a
no, they won't.
They won't even look at any paperwork that the employee brings them. They're just going to go with whatever the state says, whether it's outdated. I brought them current paperwork. They stopped it. Then Ken Paxson sent more paperwork in, or the paperwork came directly from the city of Dallas, you know, those child support enforcement agencies there. And they started it back without even questioning anything. They just started it back. I submitted the paperwork again, and they said their paperwork, mine was outdated, and they came back again and did the same thing again. So I have to pay again.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
The funny thing about income withholding, and this is part of, as you know, 90% of the revenues that comes into Title 40 comes through income withholding. And that is the reason why 1099 are exempt from the program. If you're a 1099 worker, you can leave Title 4D without any arrears, any payments.
The only problem is you can't find a 1099 contracting company to work for them nowadays. It's just not very many of them out there.
No, they're out there. There's Uber, there's Lyft, there's Instacart, there is.
You still haven't named one legitimate company. I mean, those are gigs, man. I've tried Uber, I've tried all that stuff, man.
But what I'm saying is, I mean, separate the issue of finding the right contractor company. If
you're just saying that there are options, basically.
Yeah, there are options. But let me get back to the income withholding, because that's part of the problem with income withholding.
Yeah, because shouldn't that be a civil?
By definition, if an employer gets income withholding, by definition, and the law, right? Not federal law, local law, they are supposed to look for a judge's signature on an income withholding form. You know who's signing these forms? In Title 4D investigators, supervisors,
clerks,
the janitor. Yeah. And in some cases, they even show up blank. I looked at a couple of gentlemen send me theirs.
Texas has a disclaimer. Texas, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm very adamant about this. Texas has a disclaimer on the side of theirs that says, does not require a judge's stamp. And these employers are just going for it.
Right. But here's part of the problem with the employer. I showed last year that there was a contract, a $24 billion contract signed between Title 4D, again, the powerhouse, and many of your large employers such as ADP and all of those. So there's a question that everyone should be asked. Is your employer getting a kickback? Why they so eagerly go for these contracts? Because remember, there's safeguards. The Consumer Protection Agency says if you do a writ, it's called a writ of garnishment, not income withholding. In fact, there's no such thing as income withholding. The actual law is writ of garnishment. That comes with the guidelines, all U.S. The writ of garnishment says it requires a judge's signature. But then the employer can say, well, we have a contract that we have to do this. They don't have to do anything. A government agency or quasi-government agency cannot force a private company to go along with a program that is not law. Income withholding is not law. It's called writ of garnishment. That is the legal document. That requires a judge. That is what the employers are supposed to abide by, not this blank copy. Blank copy thing.
I went to the CEO of this huge company I work for. Well, I mean, we're in 80 countries. I went to the CEO. He's got a direct line. He'll talk to anybody. He's not one of those guys that'll run from you. But what he did was I sent him a long letter explaining everything that they were doing to me, explaining my paperwork and everything. And as I mentioned to him, they stopped it, but then they started it back right before the pandemic and then intercepted my stimulus check. But all he did was forward it down to somebody else, just a regular person in HR. And when she called me, wanted me to start the whole thing over again, I just hung up the phone. I just said, you know what? I already see where you're going with this. He wouldn't have given it to you had he known that something was going to be done about it. He gave it to you because nothing was going to be done about it.
Right. And many of the employers, they charge an administration fee for carrying out this. So technically,
I've seen the paperwork. It's up to 20%.
Yes, up to 3%. To me, that again, here's where your constitutional right comes in. That falls under Bill of Attainder. I mean, you name every constitutional issues. It's a unit of work for unit of labor. You're getting a kickback from a process that's not mandatory, not guaranteed by the judge, and you're getting a percentage kickback on it. I would ask the IRS who are paying the taxes on all of these transactions. Now, this is all cash transaction. I don't see a bookkeeper anywhere in the middle.
But you know what, Chris? After a while, man, it really gets to a point where you say to yourself, I can't battle this anymore. I mean, the average person cannot keep battling this. You have to move on with your life, man.
I disagree.
But Chris, everywhere you go, there's something knocking you back. Everybody's not going to be good for years to do it like you, Chris. Everybody's not going to be able to do that.
No. I put very solid information on my YouTube channel. I give you the research. I give you all the things you need to sit down at your kitchen table, look at your case, match everything that's going on to get out. You have to get out of this program. I'll explain it. My background is I'm a tax advisor, financial advisor. So I know the mathematics behind all of this. So
but you don't live in Texas.
Right.
Texas is the number one state for breaking rules. Okay, first of all, you're talking about doing things right. Okay? Texas don't do things right, Chris. I mean, you're going to use the law and what needs to be done. And
I'll address Texas.
It's going to take you so much longer to do it.
I'll address the Texas issue.
Okay.
The Texas issue you can beat Texas. I've worked with people who beat Texas. Here's the first thing everyone should know about Texas. They make the most money from Title 4D. They make more than California.
Absolutely.
Texas last year made $4.2 billion, and they bragged about it. California makes $2.1 billion. Obviously, the math doesn't make sense. If California is twice the population of Texas, how can Texas make twice as much money of California if it's based on the number of men in the system? So that right there, you tell you that there's fraud. There has to be fraud because there's nowhere to explain it. So here's the first thing when you're tackling your paperwork to Texas. Ask the first question: how did Texas was able to be the Title 4D agency? Remember, the laws of Title 4D is what? The law of Title 4D says it's a single, separate agency reporting into the Secretary of Human Resources. How did Texas was able to become the Title 4D? Obviously by contract, but because not by delegation. Remember, what is the Office of Attorney General? They represent the people of the state, and they're the highest law enforcement officer in the state. That means by constitutional delegation, Texas is unconstitutional just from the start, but nobody starts off their paperwork. So start your paperwork with, how did Texas was able to become Title 4D? Because here's the thing, if it did, then why is the Attorney General, which is an elected position by the people, reporting into the Secretary of Human Resources? Those are two different jobs. So Ken Paxton, if you want to, put his name there, I would start off with that, because then you don't know which jurisdiction you're in. Again, jurisdiction is the foundation of everything. Ask the question, how can the Attorney General has jurisdiction over Title 4D? Very simple. They turned everybody into prisoners. It's the only explanation. You basically called it's a crime. And by making it a crime, it allows the Attorney General now to take advantage of the Title 4D. So very simple, have them prove the crime. What is the crime that I was guilty of? You must be guilty of a crime, because you wouldn't be involved with the Attorney General's office. Now, you raised it with these quasi-judges, whatever, and they get on your case, but that's the first place to start. Second thing in Texas, mom is nowhere in the legislation. The mother is not a party to this case at all. I've looked through the entire legislation. The only place that mom shows up, she's an informant. Well, if she's an informant, a foreman can't bring a claim. A foreman cannot bring a claim in any court, any judicial court in the U.S. An informant cannot bring a claim. So who exactly is the plaintiff? The plaintiff is the Attorney General. Ask the question again. How did the Attorney General get into the private affairs of the family?
Chris, here's my point. Okay, and you know as well as I do, because you live in New York. Have you ever heard of something called? Have you ever heard of something called the mob? That's what these guys are. These guys are the mob. And let me tell you something. If you cross the wrong person, there's a chance that you could get eliminated. That's why I'm saying, man, that's why I'm telling people, you have to be very careful about how far you go and whose toes you step on. If you don't have some form of protection for yourself, you're going against a bunch of mobsters, man. These people will eliminate you, man. There are people out there that have been killed.
I agree with. Look, I'm agreeing with you
for bringing this stuff out.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you that Texas is a complicated state, such as Nevada is also complicated. Clark County operates the same way, the way Texas operates in Harris County. But again, the law is the law. I agree with you, the challenges. But if you follow the statute and you follow the law and challenge them on it. Now, you raise a question, we should go along with your life. As a tax advisor, that makes no logical sense. And I'll do the quick math for you.
The stress.
If child support takes 60%, 70% of your take-home income. So let's say you pay, local taxes, and Texas doesn't have a state tax. So let's say you pay 10% in taxes, wherever that goes, federal government, state government, local ordinance. Then you take 60 to 70% of remainder of that. Now you're looking at 80% of your salary going outside of your pocket for your unit of work. Remember, as far as I knew, Juneteenth is over. Okay, slavery was gone a long time ago. How is it possible that you're going to live your life living on 20% of your income for labor? It is impossible. That is why I say you have to try to defeat these people. You cannot survive on 20% of your salary for 40 years. It's impossible. You can't. You just have to fight.
Let me segue into that, because that's the topic of my next book, which I plan to have out by the end of the year. The title is Another Method of Modern Day Slavery. And it's the truth about the, I just drew a blank there. It's the truth about the, how did I draw a blank? What is the system that we work under? The truth about at-will employment. The at-will employment agreement that you sign when you go and work for these employers, 90% of the people have to do it. And one thing I wanted to interject on what you said, and the whole 1099 thing is, man, you can search high and low. It is hard to find a 1099 contractor out there that's going to pay you 1099 and a decent salary to be able to live off of. 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to do several of them, not just one. You're going to have 2 or 3 1099. But here's the thing. Here's what I'm leading to. And in the end, man, the whole thing is people are gonna have to start working for themselves, man. You're gonna have to start creating your own money, doing your own thing, because if you do that, you know, they're not controlling all of the money that you get. Yeah, you're still gonna have to pay taxes.
But you're agreeing with what I'm saying, because that's what a 1099 person is, independent contractor.
People need to start their own businesses now, man. This system is just and you match that up with the fiat currency system, and it doesn't make any sense, man. The money doesn't have anything backing it anymore. They're just printing out trillions of dollars, giving it to the rich, making them richer. People are going out. The rich are going out buying houses. The interest rates are low right now. The poor people can't do anything about it because they don't have any money. Rich people are buying stuff, man. They're hoarding gold and silver, crypto. They're doing all these things to get ready for when the system does semi-turn around for the common man. They're going to be richer than they were before this whole thing ever started. So, man, the best advice I can give to my listeners out there, and just for anybody in general that's struggling with any type of government-based system, and that's the reason why I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not for the socialism where you got to go to the government for everything, because they've basically crippled everybody. You know, they've basically taken all of our money, all of our wealth, and they've been doing it for hundreds of years. So, man, the thing here's something I want
to leave you with, and it's surrounding the Title 4D. Do you know women are not supposed to pay child support? In Texas, they do. In a few other states, but do you know the statute does not have a provision for women to pay child support, even though there are women who do. But Texas women, they do pay, but there's nothing in the statute I've found that makes women pay child support. I know it sounds weird.
That's the most unfair thing. That's the most unfair thing that could ever be put in place, and women know that too. And a lot of them are just taking advantage of the situation, using the kids as pawns, and just to get back at the man. And then you got the ones out there. See, the whole system is so bad. They basically, they dog a lot of people out, a lot of good people with good intentions out, like me. I never said at one point in time that I didn't want to take care of my kids. From day one, I went downstairs to the court clerk to sign up for child support, because I wanted to take care of my kids after the divorce. But what they did was they pull you into a rabbit hole, and they make the finances hard. They make you pay more than you can afford.
You made the mistake. No. The mistake is you think Title 4D has anything to do with your children. It doesn't.
No, I understand it does.
Yeah,
I do understand that.
It doesn't.
This was 20 years ago when I signed up. YouTube and all this stuff wasn't even out here. We couldn't even really go and get this type of education and prepare ourselves for any of this stuff. It was just blind. I went into it blind. I went into it as a man that was going through a divorce, and I just wanted to take care of my kids. I wasn't running from my responsibility. So they got me. Matter of fact, the way they tricked me, my lawyer told me to go downstairs and sign your child support papers and then come back up, and the judge is going to go ahead and hear your divorce case. But what she did was, when I went down there and signed and came back up, the judge said, "Oh, we can't hear your case today. One other case took too long, or was held over. So we're going to have to bring you back in." It was a year later before I got the divorce, and probably about $20,000 later. So, They do all of this. It's planned. It's pre-planned. She knew I wasn't going to get a divorce when I went to that courthouse, but she used that as a manipulation and exploitation to get me to sign up for child support, which I was going to do anyway. But that's how corrupt the system is on so many levels.
But again,
the average person doesn't have a chance.
Yeah, but again, in all fairness, right? And this is where reading comes in. Child support has nothing to do with taking care of your child. Yes, 20 years ago, it has nothing. You read through every statute says the same thing. It doesn't.
It doesn't
Now,
benefit the woman or the child.
right. And
It's
but
not
what happened
designed for
was,
that.
yeah, what happened was the people who run the program decided to tell you, oh, it has to do with children. For example, I did a video on my channel to show that the director of food stamp program went to Congress and says, I don't want Title 4D involved in my operation. And I showed that in the video, and people still are telling me that if you're on food stamps, you're on child support. I said the director went to Congress, and I saved you the transcript. She says Title 4D has nothing to do with my program. In fact, I don't want them to do anything in my program. I am happy to hand out the food stamp to anyone who wants it. I don't need to qualify them whether or not they can pay. And so that was it. Title 4D is not a part of the food stamp program. But you go to any state, they go, oh, mom's on food stamp, you're on child support. I was asking, prove it. Because I have the record that it's not. It's since 2018. But again, it's a lot to digest. It's a lot to break down. The point is this, and if I do anything for your audience is this, you cannot stop the fight as an individual. The math doesn't work. You cannot live on 20% of your unit of work for the next 40 years. You will become the Democrat that the same Democrat you don't want to become, because now you have to rely on the social programs for your survival.
And that's what it's designed for. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. You cannot do this for 40 years. Just take your paycheck. 60% goes to Title 4D. 10% goes to taxes and fees and Social Security.
You're left with 30% or less.
Right, because why? Because you have to travel to work, you have to buy food, and you have to pay for gas in your car. So you don't count that expenses because those are what we call unrecoverable expenses. So you're left with 20%.
Well, Chris,
you cannot spend another day telling yourself, I'm going to go along with this.
Right.
It's not going to work.
No, I get
60
it.
years in, you're going to say you're at 65 and you're going, I have no retirement, no 401k, no investments. So now I have to turn to the government.
Well, that's one of my remedies, my 15 remedies in my first book, A Simple Guide to Child Support Redemption. I list 1099 subcontractor, working for yourself, as one of the main types of, situations that you can get yourself out of child support in. I mean, it's one of the main remedies that will help you. I mean, as long as you're working for an employer that's cooperating with the local government and the state government and the lawyers, and I mean, you're up against a 900-pound gorilla. At some point, you have to pick your poison, man. You have to understand, if you do have any type of skills on the side. I mean, me, I'm an author. God gifted me with the ability to write. So I'm in the midst of my second book now. My second book is going to focus on at-will employment. The whole cynical scenario behind at-will employment, and how 90% of the people that are W-2 employees, they sign up for an at-will employment agreement, which means they can let you go at the drop of a hat without recourse. They don't even need a reason to let you go. And on my research, I found out that this started with slavery. Right after slavery, the slave master made an agreement with the slave owner, or the slave master made an agreement with the slave, or didn't really make an agreement, forced an agreement to keep controlling people, to keep them under this at-will employment system, so that they can continue to treat them like slaves and continue to take money from them for the rest of their lives. So people just need to wake up and start controlling their own destiny. There's no way you're going to be able to.
It's not easy. We can't just say that, because it is not easy.
Well, look,
start a business.
Nothing is easy. That's
right.
That's beneficial in the end. It's going to you're going to have to be hungry for a while. When I first went into business for myself, I went hungry for a few days, but guess what? I turned it all around in the end, because if you keep working, you keep getting up, going to work like you do for that other man down the road, but if you're doing it now for yourself, you're going to be a lot more beneficial to you in the end because you're getting the money first before the government does. Now, I'm not
Right.
saying start your own business and you're not going to pay any taxes because you're going to have to pay more taxes. But the bottom line is you'll have more control over your money. And you'll have
well, that's the reason. That's the
you
reason
pay
why
those
you,
taxes.
yeah. And supporting what you're saying is this: you have to fight, which is why I said you can't just push child support because you can't be working where majority of your income goes to someone else, which is the same thing as at-will employment. Because if 70%, 60%, 70% of your income is going to Title 4D, then basically you're not working for you, you're working for Title 4D. I mean, that's...
So what do you think about my title? Another method of modern day slavery. The truth about the at-will employment.
It needs work, but it's okay.
That's where I start. I'll change it probably about 20 times before I actually publish the book.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Yeah, but for men in this country, we recognize if you are in your 40s and you've been paying child support, and when you look at your bank account and you have $100 in there in the middle of this COVID environment, to me, that is the motivation to go into the drawer that you drop those Title 4D paperwork that you hide away and
fighting.
Put them on the kitchen table and start going through them and start the fight.
Because I tell everybody that I talk to, and I tell them the honest truth. I paid $225,000, almost $250,000 to the child support system over a 21-year period. I added everything up, $225,000. And guess what? My ex-wife and kids probably got, I don't know, maybe 30,000 of that. The rest went to the state. So I tell people all the time, they find it hard to believe. What? $250,000? Really? $250,000. And that's just for paying $1,000 a month. Okay, for 20 years, you can add it up. That's $218,000. It's people that pay more than I do.
On top of that. Here's something else on top of that. And again, you have to understand how this works, right? So if you're a young millennial right now, right, what is if you're not paying child support, what is your biggest Achilles heel? Student loan, right? It's not dischargeable on your credit. Neither is child support. So can you imagine a young millennial in his 30s with a small child paying both child support and student loan, both of which cannot be discharged in bankruptcy and both of which are not deductible? Now you tell me, that young man, how is he going to survive?
That's right.
I mean, it's impossible.
But you know what, Chris? Shows like mine and your YouTube channel. My YouTube channel doesn't get a lot of play, but your YouTube channel, I notice you have a lot of viewers. My podcast, my books, the things that I'm doing, the things that people like you and me are doing, we're opening up a lot of these young people's eyes, man. We didn't have this. I didn't have this. I didn't have a guy like me or you.
I agree.
Yeah. So those guys have an advantage.
I love the fact that you have your book and your podcast. I love the fact that YouTube give me a vehicle and platform just to tell the truth. Absolutely. Because let's face this, the millennials are our future, whether we like it or not. We can label them all they want. The millennials is 87.3 million. They are greater population than the baby boomers. And let's face it, the baby boomers are dying off. This is their tail end highlight. The millennials are going to be here. We need to help them to get out from under this, because they're the young working, paying the Social Security, paying the taxes, paying for the street lights. And what did we do? We saddled them with child support and student loan. Talk about
what's funny about that?
The economy.
They ought to know something is wrong when you can say you're going to school. You don't even have to be a good student. They'll give you $20,000 or $30,000 right off the bat. All you got to do is sign the paperwork and have some decent credit. And man, they will give you $20,000 or $30,000 a semester to go to school. Now they're gonna play with your money. They're gonna dish it out to you and in awkward times, and they're not gonna give it to you all at once, and they're gonna have you, going in there and struggling for it, but you're gonna get it, and you're gonna have to pay it back. So, these kids end up having to pay $200,000, $300,000 back for a college degree. It just doesn't make sense anymore. Nowadays, it would be in a kid's or a millennial's best interest to develop some skills, whether it be writing, producing videos, washing cars, mowing lawns, coding websites. You have to do something like that, and you can be self-trained. You can train yourself. Don't get caught up in this whole child support and this government-based indentured servitude like some of us have, because I'm telling you, it'll go all the way to your grave. It'll follow you all the way to your grave.
Child support and student loan, you can't discharge them on your taxes. You are stuck with it.
Yes.
I mean, you are literally stuck with them. So you have to find a way to get out.
What's funny too about the student loans? Man, they'll give you those grace periods, and they'll just keep taking it back and moving it back and moving it back. Next thing you know, man, you've been paying for that stuff for 20 years, man.
Right.
They steady lowering your interest rate. Oh, you can pay $10 a month, you can pay $15, but if you don't sit down and make a good effort to pay that stuff off, it's gonna haunt you for the rest of your life.
Right. Well, like I said, that's when you do the math. And so you have to start by attacking both of these monsters, because if you don't eliminate them from your life, you can't have a life.
That's right.
It's just plain and simple.
Chris,
if you don't get rid of them, you can't have a life.
Chris, so go ahead and plug your YouTube page, your email address, and everything for anybody that might want to reach out to you and take advantage of your vast knowledge.
Yes. I have a YouTube channel. It's also on Facebook and Instagram, called Child Support Made Simple. Basically, I educate you on the child support program such that you can escape the program. And yes, you can. If you're a 1099 worker and you're in the system, you can get out right away. But you have to learn it. You cannot defeat your enemy if you don't know who they are. So you have to know who you can't listen to guy who tells you this is mandatory. You have to look at the statute. So I do that. I educate. I publish about one video every 2 weekends, and I break it up into topics. The other thing is I do work one-on-one with people that have specific issues that they need to resolve. But the point is you have to chip away at the child support. I also go on Facebook pages and answer questions on the topic. The problem is I'm trying to get through all the misinformation that's out there. That's one of the reasons why I did the channel. Because when your attorney tells you, you have to pay child support, that's not true. It's voluntary. What's even worse is when they tell you it's law. That's even the worst thing. This is law. It's not law. And one message for the employers, you really need to get out of the program. Okay, you're not doing your employees any good by volunteering. It's voluntary for employers to get into the program. Just get out of it. One day your employees are going to sue you, and they will sue you using two statutes: the 1028A statute, which is identity theft, and the 7102 statute for abusive legal process. So, you want to stay in, there are risks. But the idea is you have to sit down, you have to just understand your state, not the program, what your state is doing. Like I said, Texas, ask the question, how is it the Attorney General's office has a Title 4D program? How? Under what delegation? Under what rule of Congress did that happen? It didn't. They just did it on their own. So challenge them on it. Things like that. So that's the key thing, but continue to learn. Get out, because every year a crop of men, about 1.4 million men, are duped into entering child support. Yes. Where do I get that number? Directly from Congress. I publish these numbers on my YouTube channel. I publish it in the 1.4 million men over the last 5 years have entered the program. Currently, there are 15.6 million men who are enrolled in the program. A few women, which they shouldn't be there, by the way, but they're there.
Well, what was really ironic was the fact that the name of your YouTube page is Child Support Made Simple, correct?
Yes, it's the same thing.
which is the same name as my mobile
same name as yours. Which
no, that's my mobile app.
Which is why I was so excited. That's why I was so excited to meet you.
Yeah,
you know, your
that
book
was ironic. We didn't even know each other, and we came together because you named your YouTube page, and I named my mobile app that, and all of a sudden we were talking one day.
Right. Yes. And like I said, I appreciate you have the app out there for people to use. Your book as well does a good job. Yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, we're here. We're using the medium and the platform to educate. That's what we're trying to do. Absolutely. We're trying to educate.
Chris, I really appreciate you, man. I really appreciate you coming aboard. You're a hard man to catch up with, man. I've been tracking you down for about a year now, man. You always are busy, man.
Well, I have a day job that I have, you know, and as well as trying to help everyone get out of this program. You know, and someone asked me, why am I doing this? You know, I'm in my 40s, right? The millennials are going to be the people to take care of me when I get old. If I don't free them from this program, when I get there, whenever that happens, who is going to take care of me?
That's right.
The millennial. It's them. So I got to help them to get out now.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Good point.
I'm going to be, whether it's in a wheelchair or in a home, I don't want that person going, oh, the only reason why I'm here is because I need to get rid of my student loan and my child support. I'd like you to be because you want to take care of me.
Well, I saw some recent YouTube videos, man. Are people really leaving New York like they say they are? Is it still crowded up there? Are people really? Do you notice a big shift in people leaving?
As a result of the high taxes and COVID environment, people are shifting from high taxation states to low taxation states. And part of the reason is COVID has forced everyone to work from home, which means physically, you don't have to be in an apartment in New York. You could be in a farmhouse in North Carolina or South Carolina. So it's a combination of two things. The opportunity has presented itself where you can work remotely and physically, it doesn't matter where. So there are people leaving, but then there's people coming to New York because it is the center of the world. You got people migrating from Europe, migrating from Asia, and they're going to either California or New York. So there's always going to be an influx of people.
Right.
But people are moving because of COVID-19. And again, please stay safe out there. This COVID-19 is dangerous. It is dangerous.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know.
Anyway, I got to run. I got to wrap up. But I appreciate the opportunity to, you know, meet your audience. Anyone who wants to reach out to me, reach out my YouTube channel or my email, which is chrish289@protonmail.com. But and again, I'm on all the platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Reach out to me if you have a question. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot for joining the show today. And I look forward to having you on again sometime in the near future. All right?
Yeah, sometime when I've celebrated the Title 4D has gone away.
I know. That's going to be great. When that happens, I'm going to find you and we're going to get a big bottle of champagne and we're going to toast it up.
Sounds good. All right, take care.
Take care. God bless.
As always, thanks for listening in on the show. And be sure to check out Mike's book, A Simple Guide to Child Support Redemption, available on Amazon.com, or his mobile app, Child Support Made Simple, CSMSX, available through the Google Play Store. And for the latest in current events and videos that really matter, be sure to log on to Mike's YouTube page, author Mike R. Aikins, or his website at www.relevancepodcast.com.